We all know the moon landing, right? It's celebrated as one of humanity's greatest achievements. But for more than 50 years, there's been this persistent whisper, this question that just won't go away. Was it all an elaborate fake? We all know the moon landing, right? It's celebrated as one of humanity's greatest achievements. But for more than 50 years, there's been this persistent whisper, this question that just won't go away. Was it all an elaborate fake? See, the truth is, the mission came unbelievably close to failing, not because of some grand government plot, but because of tiny, terrifyingly real problems. And the most dangerous one? It happened after they had already landed safely on the moon. That's right. Imagine this. Neil Armstrong's bulky spacesuit accidentally snaps off the single, tiny switch they need to fire up the engine to leave the moon. Without that switch, there's no way to lift off, no way to get back to the main ship, no way to get home. They were totally, completely stranded, 240,000 miles from Earth. That broken switch was a real, life-threatening crisis. And we'll get back to how they solved it, I promise. But first, you have to understand the immense pressure that even got them there. A pressure so intense, it's what fuels the belief that the whole thing had to be faked. The real reason for the Apollo 11 mission wasn't just about exploration. It was about war. The Cold War, to be specific. A battle of brains and technology between the United States and the Soviet Union. And for a long, long time, America was losing. Badly. The Soviets just kept delivering these shocking blows. In 1957, Sputnik, the first satellite ever, is suddenly beeping its way across the sky. Then, just a few years later, in 61, Yuri Gagarin becomes the first human being in space. For the US, this was a national emergency. They had to do something huge to prove they weren't falling behind. And so, just weeks after Gagarin's flight, President Kennedy makes one of the boldest promises in history. He says that America will put a man on the moon and bring him home safely before the decade is over. I mean, it was an audacious goal, almost unbelievable given the tech they had at the time. And this wasn't just talk. The entire nation got behind it, pouring astronomical amounts of money and resources into the project. We're talking about the work of over 400,000 people, backed by a budget that in today's money is well over $100 billion. The stakes could not have been higher. After years of testing, which included a horrible fire during Apollo 1 that killed 3 astronauts, the moment finally arrived. July 16, 1969, Apollo 11 launches. But the drama was far from over. In fact, the most intense part was just getting started. So as the lunar module, nicknamed the Eagle, is making its final descent, alarms start blaring. 1201, an error code. Neither Armstrong nor Aldrin had any idea what it meant. All they knew was that the guidance computer, the single brain of their entire ship, was overloaded. Now here's what's so cool about this moment. Back on Earth, a 26-year-old engineer recognized the alarm. He knew the computer was smart enough to ignore the low-priority tasks and focus on the important stuff, like, landing. So he makes the call, go. He tells them to ignore the alarms and just keep going. But the problems just kept coming. Armstrong looks out the window and sees the autopilot is taking them right into a crater full of giant boulders. Not good. So he takes manual control, flying the lander like a helicopter, trying to find a safe spot, all while the fuel is just vanishing. By the time he finds a clear patch, they have just 30 seconds of fuel left. And then, the words that 650 million people back on Earth were literally holding their breath to hear. They'd done it. They made it. But while the world was celebrating, the astronauts were inside facing that secret crisis we talked about, the broken switch that was their only ticket home. So back inside the module, they realize the switch to arm the engine is just gone, snapped off. They tell a stunned mission control, and then Buzz Aldrin has an idea. He knows a switch is really just a simple circuit breaker, so he pulls out his felt tip pen, jams it into the little hole where the switch used to be, and pushes. It completes the circuit. It worked. A simple pen saved the entire Apollo 11 mission. And if you need any more proof of just how risky this all was, get this. The White House knew there was a very real chance Armstrong and Aldrin wouldn't make it back. President Nixon had an entire speech written and ready to go in case of a disaster, a speech that would have announced to the world that the astronauts were being left on the moon to die. So with all of that documented, very real danger, why do so many people still believe it was faked? Well, the theories usually boil down to a few key pieces of evidence from the photos and videos. Let's tackle the big ones. First up, the classic, the fluttering flag, right? I mean, if there's no air and no wind on the moon, why does the flag look like it's waving in a breeze? It does seem a little suspicious. The answer is actually pretty simple engineering. NASA knew the flag wouldn't just hang there, so they built it with a horizontal rod across the top to hold it out. But during setup, the rod got jammed and didn't extend all the way, which created that permanent ripple in the fabric. The fluttering you see in the video, that's just the flag wobbling after the astronauts twisted the pole into the ground. As soon as they let go, it's perfectly still. Okay, next up. The sky on the moon is pitch black, so it should be packed with brilliant stars. But in every single photo from the surface, there's not one star to be seen. So where'd they all go? This one just comes down to basic photography. The astronauts landed during the lunar day. The sun was out, and the light reflecting off the bright gray surface and their white spacesuits was incredibly bright. So the camera settings had to be adjusted for that super bright foreground, which means the much, much fainter light from distant stars was just impossible to capture. It's the same reason you can't see stars during the day here on Earth. But moving beyond the conspiracies, there were some very real criticisms of the Apollo program, even back then. The biggest question was really about priorities. Was a trip to the moon truly the best use of all that money and effort? The main argument was about opportunity cost. What else could that money have done? One newspaper pointed out that for the price of the Apollo program, you could have built a major university in every single state. With so many problems on Earth, from war to poverty, a lot of people argued the money was just wasted on a political stunt. But here's the incredible, unforeseen legacy of Apollo. To make the mission work, NASA needed a small, powerful guidance computer, so they placed the world's first ever bulk order for a brand new invention, the integrated circuit, or what we now call a microchip. This massive demand from NASA caused the price of computer chips to plummet by over 90%, and that price drop made computers affordable, which kickstarted the digital revolution that led directly to the very device you are watching this on right now. So despite its incredible success and all these amazing tech spin-offs, just 3 years after Apollo 11, we stopped going to the moon. Completely. So why the long pause, and what's coming next? So why did we stop? Well, once the space race was won, public interest faded pretty quickly. The program was incredibly expensive, and with other problems piling up at home, the political will to keep funding it just evaporated. But now, over 50 years later, NASA is finally planning a return with the Artemis Program, which aims to land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon. The story of Apollo 11 isn't just about one event in history. It's about ambition, it's about incredible risk, and it's about unforeseen consequences that are still shaping our world today. Which leaves us with one final question. As we look to return to the moon and maybe even go beyond, what new challenges and what unexpected giant leaps for humankind are still waiting for us out there?